Hi, my name is Daela Itukdin. I'm Samoan Tongan and queer, and I feel really grateful to be able to stand proud in my identity, knowing I have kind of the ancestors on my back and grounding me, and generations of queer Pasifika people to look to for strength. To me, being queer and having queer indigenous roots is really powerful and important because in growing up in Salt Lake City, Utah, where queerness is outside the norm, I guess, the cultural norm we find ourselves in here, to know that there is something larger than this box that the valley kind of exists within that I can connect with, and knowing my roots are deeper than the legacy of colonization in my heritage and in my family and in the islands really provides me with what I need to feel comfortable existing day to day, even when some of my interactions with my own family can be a little uncomfortable for them, living my truth around them. And to know that regardless of the perspectives that my family has now from, you know, the Christian like hetero patriarchy, that is not something that needs to underpin who I truly am and how I connect with my roots and my culture. And so the indigenous connection to queerness is really core to allowing me to feel comfortable in my own skin. I think it's really amazing that a place like Salt Lake City with such a dominant culture that is kind of the antithesis of who I am, that there is a really strong counterculture here, and particularly when it comes to queer spaces, regardless of how strong that counterculture is, I still really rely on my queer people of color to help me feel safe in these spaces that are generally dominated by white people. And in particular, I think it's, for whatever reason, a lot easier for like queer institutions to stay around that are geared towards white, gay, cis men. And finding how to navigate those spaces, kind of growing up here as a queer person, has definitely changed over the years. And ultimately for me, what makes me feel the most comfortable, like I can enjoy these spaces the most, is being with my people, being with other people of color that don't necessarily identify in the very, you know, cis gay way, and having more spaces like the Nuanua Collective and other just like queer community groups in Salt Lake that feel a lot more inclusive, and not just inclusive, but intentionally built by queer people of color for queer people of color. To me, I think the advice I needed to hear growing up, it's tricky because I didn't grow up in the church. Like, my parents didn't take me to church every Sunday, and my parents are very very kind, progressive, thoughtful, caring people, and it took me some time to come out to even them, considering I had what felt like almost like this best case scenario. And I think that for me, there was kind of a struggle there of recognizing that somehow I have this situation that should be so easy, and there's something still holding me back, and having to dig deeper into what that is. I would just want to say to the younger version of myself and maybe other queer Pasifika youth that are experiencing a situation that can kind of relate to my story, that it's okay to acknowledge that you have internalized homophobia from outside your own control, because starting at a very young age, we start to take on the shame that other people put on us, whether we realize it or not. And so it's really important to be able to recognize those feelings that you're having and to sit with them, and that it can take a really long time, but it's so important to love yourself for who you really are, and that whatever kind of cultural trappings that you feel like are holding you back, setting those healthy boundaries with yourself, with your family, or with your friends is really important to ultimately allowing yourself to be the truest version of yourself. And that's how you're going to be the happiest, even if, you know, that means people think you're weird or whatever. Like, we all go through that kind of finding yourself phase and battling with that self-hate and trying to find the people who really love and accept you for who you are. And that's the most beautiful thing to experience as a queer person of color, is allowing yourself to have that very natural evolution and growth, and through that process finding yourself in the community that's going to love you the most for who you are. It can be really hard to grow up in a Pacific Islander household that came to the United States to live their American dream, to live their Christian dream, and that dream was not made by us and it's not made for us. And it is hard to look in the face of your grandma or your auntie that, you know, moved here to try and give you a better life when you don't seem to be living that better life in a way that is maybe considered acceptable. And I think that that is a struggle that's kind of unique to the, you know, people of the diaspora like us to take on. And I'm just so grateful to have family members my generation who I was able to talk to about this kind of stuff, to have friends and community members through Nuanua and other places to realize that that is not, we're not alone in those feelings and in that struggle, and that being the best version of yourself that's true to yourself is, even if it can be hard for some of your family members, that is living a very, very important and very valid dream, even if it doesn't fit into those confines. And so I think that's just something that took me time to understand, that I would never be the perfect grandchild for my grandma that wanted me to go to church, but she did come here to give me a better life. And so regardless, I feel grateful to be able to live the life that I'm living here.